Welcome to the Not Safe for Work Photography Podcast, where we explore the art and business of erotic photography. Today, we're interviewing Pam Fields. Pam is an accomplished erotic art and boudoir photographer and educator and speaker based in Las Vegas, Nevada. Pam has had her work on display at the Erotic Heritage Museum in Las Vegas, as well as selected to be in the largest erotic art show in the United States, the Dirty Show in Detroit. As the owner of Pam Fields Photography, she creates sensual, sexy, and often erotic portraits with women, men, and couples while creating safe and judgment-free environment for her clients to shed their inhibitions and their shame, and often shed their clothes. How are you doing today, Pam?
I'm doing great.
That is awesome. Pam was recommended to me by the Jimmy Changa, who saw her speaking at Shutterfest, and for the photographer education group she leads on Facebook, which is part of what we're going to be discussing. If you are listening to this on your podcast app, we are recording video for this. It was kind of a last minute ad hoc decision, which I am deeply regretting as I stare at my overexposed exposure. And here I call myself a photographer, and this is the video that I'm providing. I will be ordering a ring light and we'll be turning off the wild overhead lights and we'll improve this. All right, Pam, at the risk of being cliched, how did you get into photography?
Well, my journey as a photographer initially began in, well, let me let me say, I always had a point and shoot camera.
Mhm.
So, even high school film point and shoot. So I throughout my life, just documenting travel, documenting after I had children, you know, taking pictures of them. One of the things that I would do every year with my daughter and then later my son as well is take pictures of them in Mississippi at my mom's house. And
Mhm.
then when she was a teenager, we played around one year with taking her pictures in more of a fashion and avant-garde out in the middle of, kind of the juxtaposition of the old dilapidated building with the with her in this fashiony outfit and her hair all done out wild. And so I posted those pictures on Facebook, and I homeschooled my kids from kindergarten through graduation. They went to real college. So whenever I put those pictures on Facebook, though, my one of my homeschool moms said that she was a landscape photographer, but she gave me the name of a couple of photographers. We lived in Indianapolis at the time. And so my daughter started exploring modeling and getting into the studio space, shooting with the first photographer that she shot with. And I just fell in love with his work. And he was a really good fashion photographer in Indianapolis named Steve Brokaw. And he was doing fashion portraits on seamless gray. And I just, thunder gray, savage thunder gray, and I loved it. And he was a Nikon shooter. And so then I met another photographer in Indianapolis that worked with my daughter named Carrie Jean, and she did these very creative conceptual portraits. And so after those two photographers, my daughter kind of continued navigating some modeling, and I ended up getting my first DSLR and went out and got some lights. And so that was my entry into it all. And it was in December of 2014. So it has not been too terribly long, 9 years.
Yeah.
And I started from people always told me that I had a good eye for composition and that I should get a real camera. And then they started explaining because I could control my aperture. And I said, my appa what? What is it? I would glaze over like they were speaking a foreign language because they were to me. I didn't understand. They were like, oh, the exposure triangle. So I started, hopping on the internet and just soaking up the information. And then I had to learn, lighting and editing and posing and why my Black Friday special laptop wouldn't open Lightroom. so so it was a lot of growth very fast.
You mentioned the growing up with a point and shoot. But there's the send it off like the
In the little
Kodak little
sleeve that you
ones.
mail.
Yeah. I miss
Yeah.
I miss that feel. I miss the
And we were
feel of
so broke.
discovery.
We
Yeah.
were we were so broke growing up that we would have my mom had a basket, and it
Mhm.
just had all these different film canisters in there. And sometimes we would just randomly pick one out and send it in. And it could be pictures from, 20 years before with my mom and dad. So that was always fun getting those
Yeah.
mystery the mystery package in to see what the pictures were going to be.
Yeah, it definitely informs a lot of my shooting now, the kind of that feel. Whereas now,
Yeah.
people have thousands of photographs for everything, but I remember I have like 5 photographs from my whole time in college. It's like because they were expensive, like,
I
it's not.
know. And I used to use some of the online developers way, way back. And I'm sure those pictures are still in there, but I like having them all in my on my hard drives until one dies.
Yeah.
I
I
have everything backed up multiple times.
I was just doing that today. I was moving some of the stuff that I'd done finished editing both onto my local backup and into my online backup.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. So how
I
did
don't
you get it?
usually use online backup just because of the sensitivity of my work. But I
That's
have a
fair.
NAS
Yeah.
with like, I don't know, 68 terabytes, something is
Oh my
crazy.
God.
It's,
That's
it's,
wild.
it's, it's a lot.
Yeah,
Well,
I
because
can
with
imagine.
erotica, and people don't really always know this, but with a lot of boudoir, um, depending on the federal regulations, you have to keep your images for 7 years, all edited and unedited images.
Even if you don't release the unedited ones,
That's
or
right.
how come?
Because of thanks Tracy Lords, but it has to do with age verification. And now I rarely ever work with anybody even under 30, but I mean
Mhm.
I do. It's just that my most of my clients are 45 to 65. But so there I'd never have a question as to how old they are, but I follow the regulations, get their a copy of their ID and just keep the records.
Interesting. That is
Yeah.
actually something that's probably fairly important. We have a lot of amateur and semi-pro folks that listen to this.
Yes, it is. It really is important, and thanks to a lawsuit with the free speech coalition got
Mhm.
involved with, there was a ruling handed down from the third whatever court, something almost Supreme Court. I don't
Yeah,
really
Third
know.
Circuit or something like that.
Yeah, it basically s- changed the regulations to say that the only way that they would check your records is with a warrant, because used to they just said you had to store your records, say where you're storing your records, and have your records available if they wanted to come check at during business hours.
Yeah, that's
And
the part that I'm familiar with.
yeah,
Uh,
but you don't have to do that anymore. I mean, you still have to keep your records, but they're not. No one no one's going to come knock on your door and check unless there is a warrant.
hmm,
And so the only reason there would be a warrant is if there was a
a
probable
report.
cause. And the only probable cause is if someone's underage for that regulation.
Or someone wants to start stuff, but that's probably not.
That could
For
happen.
most of us, that's
I
hopefully
don't
not
know.
an issue.
There's some weird competitors out there.
Yeah, that's fair. All right. So how did you get your start in boudoir then?
Well, going from there, so I really wanted to shoot and was shooting just like fashion portraits and conceptual creative pieces, and I've always been super creative, so I loved that, making costumes and making headpieces and putting flowers on people's face or whatever. But during the early part of shooting, I was always just drawn to the human form, and I had this one model I was working with, and his physique was just he had a great physique. And so at the time I was married, and so I asked my husband, I'm like, "Oh, can I shoot him with his shirt off?" And I said, had him ask his wife, can can he can he take his shirt off and get pictures?" And it was the reason I wanted to do that is there had been a picture that I'd just been looking at for a long time, is a Peter Lindbergh picture. And I just was like, it was the first picture I ever looked at and said, I want to, how did he do this light? This is beautiful.
Mhm.
It's just a nice shadow, and the light was washed over him. It was just so pretty. And so I ended up emulating that picture. And now the editing, I should dig that out of my archives and re-edit it.
Yeah.
But I did love the picture, and I got the lighting great, but just that was that session was really the first time for me that I was like, I love this. This is I want to take I want to take pictures of more nude bodies or semi-nude bodies. And so it just started from there, and I started dabbling in boudoir. And then because I was in 2016 was the first time I attended Shutterfest as a photographer. And I mean, I didn't even know I was working with studio lights at that time. And I didn't know I had a speed light that I took with me to Shutterfest, but I didn't know how to make it connect to my camera off camera. And so one of the instructors showed me how to do it. And then from there, I started building my portfolio, working with people that were, models that they had at Shutterfest doing boudoir and doing some of the boudoir classes there as well.
We'll talk a little bit more about Shutterfest in a bit. So, just some more kind of, I'm trying to get into some more, like I said, the main audience for the podcast is, let me just scoot up a little closer to the microphone. Main audience for the podcast is mostly photographers. So, I have a couple of questions about what you like that occurred to me while I was looking over your portfolio. Do you prefer working with flash, continuous, or natural lighting?
I am very much a flash. I like to control my
Mhm.
light, but there are times where natural light is needed, and then I have continuous lights. I've got to play around with and don't love them, but they're great to use when I have workshops and things like that. So we're not passing a trigger around. So that's usually what I've used those before.
Yeah, I've ordered continuous lights twice and I've been disappointed both times.
I was
Uh,
disappointed.
yeah.
But I think some of it's just I probably should have practiced longer before I went back to my strobes. But I love my strobe now because the modeling light on it is really powerful. So
Hmm.
I use the Godot's 8400, and that modeling light is
Uh,
great.
I've been using most of mine have been speed lights and they almost never have, modeling lights. I recently upgraded to the 8200,
Uh-huh.
which I don't
I
think
use
has a
that.
modeling light, and the 8400, which does have a modeling light, but I haven't played with that much.
The 8400, you have the 8400?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one I use, and the modeling light's fantastic. And
Okay.
I even got the AC adapter.
I I know you said it, but for some reason in my mind, I heard that as 8400, like the number, like
Oh,
8400,
oh
and I
no,
was like
AD,
AD
AD.
400.
That's my Southern accent coming out.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah,
But
I've got
yeah,
one of those. I've been, yeah. Mhm.
I do shoot with strobes usually. I like to control the light and, have place it where I want it. And so that's good. But I do like getting outdoors and shooting with natural light too. I had one client that was like, well, are you gonna, are we gonna leave about 6 in the morning? I was like, no, we're not. Well, it's like I charge way, way extra for that if I have to get up that early. No, I'll pick you up at 10 and we'll go out to the lake bed. And they're like, oh, well, then we'll be out there at noon. I'm like, yes, it'll be great. We'll get that nice hard light. And those
Mm.
pictures were amazing.
All right. Which one of these? So is it more that Flash works better with Boudoir than the others, or is it do you prefer having the control, or why do you specifically like Flash?
Because I like that I can choose different modifiers
Hmm.
if I need a strip box, I've got a strip box. If I need a, a big octo box or, the big, I like the big Paul Buff, parabolic umbrella that I shoot with a good bit. And yeah, I like being able to control the light and move the light and not I'm lazy, so I don't want to have to think too much if I have a and it also affords me the opportunity to tell my clients because I'm in Vegas and I I'll do a shoot starting at 8 o'clock at night if somebody wants if
Yeah.
somebody wants me to. So, and if I were a natural light shooter, then I'd have to really crank up my ISO to get to
Yeah.
shoot in a hotel that time of night. And which I could
Yeah.
do it.
I need to. I've been slacking on that myself. Whenever I have to travel for a shoot, I look at all the stuff that I want to pack up and take, and I'm like, I'm just gonna shoot with natural light.
Yeah, I have a big Samsonite suitcase, and I just throw all my gear in there, and then I've got a really peak design backpack, and I stick my lenses and camera in there, and a few other things. And but that suitcase feels has every. I need to measure it because when I was at imaging, I saw a softbox that I want to get because I don't have an octabox that I take on set, and I use the umbrella. So I really want to get an octabox that will fit in that suitcase. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I have a strip box though that I use a lot on set
What is
or
the
when I'm shoot on location. And by on
actually,
location, I shoot in a lot of hotel rooms.
yeah. What is is it Glow that makes,
Yeah,
yeah, I recently, so I got out of photography and I got back in, like I told you, like 2019, 2020-ish.
right.
And when I left photography, strip boxes and soft boxes were so expensive, 400, $500. Like only pros had them.
Oh
But
yeah.
now with Glow, like I've got like two strips, I've got a big old octabox, I've got all these things that I could never afford before. It's been really, really nice.
I really like Glow. I like their, the ones that are like the umbrella style. And so,
Yeah, I don't
but
think
what
I've
I
got
use,
yeah, I'm sorry.
what do it?
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say what I use a lot, a lot. And I show this and I almost threw it away when I had a shoot I flew to Miami for a photo shoot and I took it with me and I was like, oh, I'm going to throw it away. But I didn't, but it's a Godox strip box. And I have beat it to hell and back. I mean, because it's the kind that have the rods, and I hate that. But it was it was the biggest one that would fit in my big suitcase. And so the other ones I had here, my Glow is too long. I have a Glow strip box, and it's way too long to fit in my suitcase. And I'm
Yeah.
already like a freaking Sherpa walking into these hotels with my big bag,
Yeah.
my backpack, and I do carry the umbrella, but I didn't want
Yeah.
to carry all that other shit. So I'm
No,
just
I'm there. I'm
like,
there. When I went to Mega Glam, I packed, I was like, how can I get through with just one trip? Just
yeah,
one trip. What is the least
right.
amount of stuff I can, it's awful. All right. We need to move on because
I know we're gonna
we
be
got
like,
really
oh,
two
all
things.
our gear problems.
Yeah, this is just going to turn into a gear bitching podcast.
Right.
All right. You say on your page you do art, nude, erotic, and boudoir. Where specifically do you draw the line between the three?
So this is what I tell people when they ask. The quick
Mhm.
answer is boudoir underwear stays on.
Hmm.
And that's my easy answer. But really, boudoir is sexy and sensual, and erotica is sexual. And so,
Mhm.
and then art nudes to me are not sexual in nature, but they're completely naked. So,
Yeah. Oh,
and that's the art nudes are about the shape of the body and the form, and getting some artistic expression with, weird poses. And I always love working with
yeah.
models that already, or clients that have great ideas about posing, and, just getting really out of the box and doing weird shapes with their body.
Do you frequently get clients that come in with kind of ideas for what they want?
A lot of my clients don't really know what they want, but then
Mm.
after they look at my erotica portfolio, they come back and say, "Yeah, we want that." So
Yeah.
it's kind of part of it. But some of them have storylines and ideas and concepts. I shoot erotica and I also shoot like kink and fetish, but I don't have a lot of when I started with erotica. I really thought that I would get like, oh, it's Vegas. And I thought that I would have a lot of, connection because I'm not in the kink community myself, like in the community, but I really thought that I would have people wanting, more photo shoots. But most of my clients are, I would categorize them as kink curious. And
Hmm.
so I have some props and things here that, I can take on set with me for them to explore with. But I do have some clients that, married couples that bring in their own little suitcase of their props and everything. So that's always fun.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, I have one couple that they actually travel with an extra carry-on suitcase that has their special pillow in it and their, all their toys. So
It's funny. That is actually kind of surprising given that you're in Vegas. Do you get a lot of out of town folks that come
I
in?
do. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. A lot of clients from all over the place.
Interesting. And I assume they come, you mentioned toys and their own kind of, but they come with their outfits and everything too, or do you supply outfits for them
Yeah,
or?
well, I do if they need them. I don't advertise that I have a client
Mhm.
closet because I don't have a full, kind of like a traditional boudoir client closet. But I do have some pieces here that, that clients can use if they want to. But usually they plan ahead. Although I get last minute sessions as well. So I have people
Hmm.
that, they're coming to Vegas next week and they want a session. So it depends
Yeah.
on how my bookings look.
Gotcha. Though that explained the hotel bit. You said you shot in hotels quite a bit.
Yeah,
Is
I
that
do.
basically you coming to them?
I do.
Hmm.
And I have a residential studio, and I'm trying to say, let's see what I think this last year, I can't remember the exact number, but I think it was somewhere around 30% of my clients were here in my
Hmm.
studio space.
Are they looking for the hotel as kind of like a part of the fantasy, or is it
Well,
just
they're
super
staying there.
convenient? Yeah, they're
That's
just
it,
hmm.
it's that's where they're staying, and so they want to just document that. And plus, people really like to, get out on the balcony at Cosmopolitan, so get some naked pictures out there.
Oh boy.
I shoot there. I hope
Oh
they don't
boy.
listen to this and then come hunt me
Oh
down,
boy.
but
I don't think the people that work at the Cosmo are part of
mm-mm.
the listenership here, but who knows?
No,
So
you
okay,
never know.
so I'm actually going to go off on a tangent here because I'm curious. I'm traveling to Vegas myself in a couple of months, and I was looking at model mayhems in
Oh
the
yeah,
area, and I was looking at all of them, and they're just filled with pictures in the hotel. And
oh yeah,
I get it. I get why you do it. It's convenient. You're there. You're paying the model, so you don't want to pay for a studio. I get it. I get it.
yeah.
I'm not gonna lay judgment on it. So how do you try and make that better than the typical hotel shoot? Like,
Well, I take the best I can do is I take my colored sheets. I don't like shooting on white
oh,
sheets, so I take
interesting.
my own set of sheets and do the shoot there, and then I'm really good at going into a scene and surveying and seeing where the unique shots are, and so it won't look. And I also tell people, I've shot I've shot in everything from, a Motel 6 to the presidential suite at Four Seasons. So,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can a bed's a bed. So it's
The Motel 6 works if you're going for kind of sleazy low.
That's true. That's true. And some of this, like some of the work on my website is literally where I've taken a backdrop and like a canvas backdrop and popped it up in the corner of a hotel room, and just it was right there, and that's where we
Yeah.
did the shoot, and you would know that it's not in a big studio.
Yeah. Yeah. I was thinking about how much furniture you'd have to move around to get good sight lines and
Yeah, and some of
like
that furniture is heavy. Oh my
uh
gosh. And some of
yeah.
it's oddly light, which is
Hmm.
weird.
Interesting. I guess you could also potentially, if you're shooting during the day, shoot against the window and like blow out the window
Yeah.
and just use it
Yeah.
as just a giant, just white, like kind of like the camera here on my forehead.
Right, right. A few of the hotels also have the frosted glass on the bathroom
Mm,
doors. And that's always fun to do a silhouette shot
hmm,
where I'm in the bathroom and the light shooting through it, and then shooting my clients. So I've gotten a
Are
few
there
good, really good shots like that.
are there any of the hotels in Vegas that have had particularly memorable rooms that if someone was coming to visit you or maybe another photographer or they were a photographer coming and they wanted to have the most interesting room?
I wouldn't say interesting necessarily that I've shot at, but I love Palm's Place. Just it has the nice soaking tub that's out in between like the living room area and the bedroom area for their one bedrooms.
Hmm,
They're really nice, and it's got a nice kitchen area there as well. And then
interesting.
Cosmo, I love Cosmo. Their wallpaper is very distinctive. So the brownish wallpaper with the gold medallions on it. And I'm always disappointed when I get to Cosmo and somebody's not in. They happen to have some rooms that don't have that wallpaper. And so I'm always bummed when I go in. I'm like, dang, the wallpaper's not here. So,
Gotcha.
but
Well,
I
yeah.
I do tell my clients, especially with Cosmo, that if they want to play a fun game, they can go to Pornhub, type in Vegas in the search bar, see if they can pick their hotel room out. So,
Uh,
and
who's
I'll be looking out the window And I'm like, what? Okay, there's the link. I see it. So what hotel would that be? Is that I was trying to figure out? And I'm like
Oh
looking
my
at the
gosh.
carpet. No.
Yeah. I'm probably going to do this again this year, but like I said, I go to conferences in Vegas all the time. It's a little annoying how every conference picks Vegas and we never go anywhere else. But when I was
Right.
there 2 years ago, I met with three people and spoke with them. And yeah, one of them was telling me it was a model. I can't remember her name, and now I feel bad. But she was telling me like she recognizes all the rooms in Vegas now.
Oh
She
yeah,
like she
yeah.
sees them in the video. She's like, "Yep, there, been there, been there."
That's what I'm
Ah,
like, yeah, I've shot there. I think that well, and I think it's Encore that I think that they did this on purpose in their suites, like one whole entire wall is nothing but mirrors. So as
hmm,
a photographer with my lights, I'm in there trying to,
that
yeah,
sounds awful. Yeah.
yeah, it's not fun.
Uh, interesting. Yeah, the rooms at the Palms place look really interesting. They're very
Oh yeah,
simple
they're
and classy, and yeah, because some of the other ones I was looking at are just like the carpets are terrible and the decorations are terrible, and it
oh,
just
I
looks like a
know. I
just
hate
looks
all
like
the
ugh.
the pattern, super patterned carpets.
You make an interesting comment on your page about creating an environment that's non-judgmental, balanced, and open-minded for your clients to explore their sexuality, and that is mostly a quote. How do you
Yeah.
do that?
Well, how I do that is it's it's very nuanced. I've gone through a lot of I had to do a lot of work with myself and understanding, where my views came from and understanding that so much of what I believed and saw as right and dealing with my own sexual shame and my own, you know, trauma history and all of that, which partly shaped my views and, how I felt about myself.
Mm,
So I was able to take all of that and realize that so much of what I viewed and believed was from the external. So what society says I should think, or what my family or church or whoever, put on me. So I had to work through all of that first and then realize that, I that so many people have been programmed so much to, you know, think that, oh, well, this part of sex is, bad, or we shouldn't,
mhm,
it's embarrassing. And I'm like, sex should not be embarrassing, and it should be something that people are open and comfortable talking about. And for some reason in our society, people aren't comfortable talking about it. But I individualize my approach, and I just set the tone from the first point of contact with people to let them know that, I'm not going to judge them. And I mean, I've worked with a lot of clients. I had one client that back to me like a year and a half after their shoot because they said it was the safest they had ever felt anywhere. It's an older client.
mhm.
Actually, it's my oldest client to date, and they were 72. And they said, they'd gone as far as they could with their therapist, and they'd never worked with anyone else that they didn't feel judged by. So they just wanted to come and share their entire story with me. So we did. We sat down for a couple of hours, and they just talked and shared their story. And it was really, and it's just a lot of me listening and just, you know, it comes down to me just not judging. Everybody has their own story and their own, has, process. So I try to create a balance and just let people know that, I have an open mind. And so they can be comfortable and safe. That's the one feedback I get from everybody is, wow, I can't believe how comfortable I was in front of doing this in front of you. Because most of my clients, this is a first experience for them.
Yeah,
And so as far as, nude and erotica, especially couples. So because I work a lot with couples.
makes sense. Yeah, that is something that comes up pretty much over and over again on this podcast, both from models' perspectives and from photographers' perspectives, kind of working through their own. Yeah, we do as a society, we just seem to do a really terrible job of creating fully integrated people where they're able to combine both sides of their lives into one functional human.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we'll get started on solving that.
Yes, I'm trying to be part of the solution that, have boundaries and don't have shame over
Mhm.
what your choices are, but make sure you understand why you're choosing what you're choosing. And
Yeah.
that it's your choice and not a choice put on you by someone else that you are adopting as your views. You got to
Yeah.
know what your belief system is.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of that from models, especially from photographers that appear to be ashamed because they won't come out and say what they specifically want. They
Yeah.
only kind of reveal it after the shoot's halfway done or towards the end, or they'll try and push a model's boundaries because they'll bring in like an art nude model and they'll be like, "Well, why don't you do this?" And it's like, "No, that's not what we talked about."
Well,
So,
I have couples that, when we're first talking, and I handle boudoir inquiries different than erotica inquiries, but, once someone I require clients to do a Zoom meeting with me
mhm.
before I send them a link to my erotica gallery. So once they see my erotica gallery, then they're ready to book. I've had a couple of clients let me know, like, "Oh, yeah, it was a really relief to see your erotica gallery because we didn't want to say anything, but we're going to bring our butt plugs." And I'm like, "Go for it." So I'm like, "You're married. And even if you weren't, hey, bring your butt plugs."
Yeah, I'm glad that they told you ahead of time and didn't decide to spring
Well,
it on
it's
you
in
at
my,
the.
I do have, I tell them, they know this, that, I have a questionnaire that
Mhm.
is pretty extensive, that where they can, it's all these different props and positions and body parts, everything's listed out for them to check mark. And I've had clients say, "Oh, we didn't even think about this. We're going to try this and this and this." So,
I
and
saw.
that
Yeah.
questionnaire also serves as my consent form, because if they don't mark it, then in the heat of the moment during a shoot, if they decide they want to do something that's not on my, or that they didn't mark, and if it's
Mhm.
on there and they didn't mark it, then I'm not gonna agree to shoot it. So, because I
Yeah.
don't want somebody coming back later and say, "Oh, yeah, what," the next day, "Oh, why did I do that?" Just the feeling of regret, "Oh, I shouldn't have done that. We were just caught up in the moment." And, you know, so they have to think about it ahead of time.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's something that's come up more than once as well. Weirdly enough, also when I was in Vegas, people in Vegas are really big on the consent checklist. I've heard from it from a couple of the photographers and models, but not as many. Maybe
Yeah.
that's because so many people in Vegas kind of have one foot in both worlds, both the adult
Maybe
world and
so. Well, no, some of that, for me, I mean, it just comes out of like learning more and more about the kink community, and,
Mhm.
having, consent there, obviously. And in the like swinger lifestyle, having consent there is really important. And in in boudoir and erotica, consent's also very important.
That seems fair. Do they
But on the,
mhm,
yeah, and I was going to say, on the non-judgmental part too, is just letting clients know it's okay to talk openly about sex, because that's, part of the session that we're going to be doing. And so just getting them to know that they're heard and respected, and that for a lot of my clients, they come in because it's also about having a lot of empathy, like the client I mentioned earlier. you know and it's hard to describe, because I really don't know exactly what I did to set him at ease for him to want to, come back and share his entire story with me. And so, and I had a client that during the middle of her shoot, she started sharing her story with me of how she, ended up getting to that point in her life at 36. And then it was just so moving, gives me goosebumps now just to think about it, but it was so moving. I just sat down, stopped shooting for a good like hour, that we just sat and talked. I mostly listened, which
mhm.
is hard for me to do because I like to talk too. But just to, it's an honor to me to be able to sit down and hear people processing through their stories, and how they came to want to do an erotica session with me.
All right. Vegas is a huge tourist city, and I'm going to ask three selfish questions. I already asked one, so there's only two more. And a ton of photographers come in for work or for fun. They're, there with their family, they're there with their for work, they're there for a week with their friends. So, what are some good places around town to shoot for traveling photographers?
Well, obviously, there's out at Red Rock is a great location to shoot. Now, permits come into play, but I'm not gonna lie, I've never seen a ranger out on the hiking trail back up behind the rocks where you can't see the trail and the trail can't see you.
Yeah.
So I have multiple times, grabbed my stuff and hot damn, the last time I was out there, I don't know how it happened exactly. Either my car wasn't locked or it fell out of the back when I was putting all my gear in my suit, my backpack, but my purse got stolen. That was such a bummer.
Wow.
But yeah, I put my stuff in there, hike in, get up behind the rocks and everything, tell my client get naked and take some pictures out on the rocks. It's pretty awesome. And then the dry lake bed outside of town down by Jean is another good spot to go. And it's just like a blank canvas out there, a big open nothingness, and that's
Interesting.
always fun. And then in town, the arts district has lots of great murals, and downtown has a lot of great murals around Las Vegas Boulevard, and I think it's Stewart and Ogden, those streets down there where they do Life is Beautiful down there. It's a lot of really cool wall art murals and graffiti and stuff.
Yeah, I've got some. All right, so I'm flagging those on my list. Like I said, this is a selfish question.
Yeah.
I've got a couple places in the arts district flagged, but I've never been there before. So that's north of the strip, a couple blocks off Las Vegas Boulevard, right?
Yeah, it is main commerce, that area. And if
Gotcha.
you're ever here on the first Friday of the month, they have a big art, first Friday. So that's a fun time to go down there. A
Gotcha.
lot of the shops are open and they have booths and everything out in the street, and music and food trucks and food everywhere. It's good. It's a lot of fun.
Gotcha.
A lot of locals go there.
Yeah, and you mentioned having a exhibit in the Erotic Heritage Museum.
Yeah,
So yeah, that's definitely something that I would encourage photographers to go to. I've been there twice so far, and they have rotating exhibits, so you shouldn't
they
go
do.
once.
Mine was up
Yeah.
for 6 months and it just came down in January, and I was kind of sad about it. But yeah, but then one of my images that wasn't in that show was selected to be in the Dirty Show. So I was really excited about that as well.
Gotcha. What is the Dirty Show? I've never heard of that before.
The Dirty Show is in Detroit, and it is the biggest erotic art show in the nation. It's been going on for 24 years, and it's just 2 weekends in February. And apparently, they get submissions from all over the world,
It
and
is
then they
this
have
weekend.
yeah. And then I know I'm going to Detroit in February. Sounds fun, doesn't it? It'd be so cold. But yeah, it's so they have the art gallery part of it on display, and then they have performances and everything that go on. So I'm excited about it. I've never been, so that'll be fun.
Yeah, I didn't know this even existed. Now I'm like, you know what? No, never before have I ever said I want to go to Detroit, but
I know. Well, and I one of the things on my list of many things to do is I'm going, and I have a lot of this bookmarked, but I want to compile it all into a resource guide for photographers to know where, because there's a lot of erotic art festivals and shows, and then there's some that are just like Fet and Kink. There's FetCon, and there's a lot of conferences and everything there. But like for me, I have just kind of taken to saying I'm an erotic artist because a lot of my clients, that's what we're shooting. It's not a kink. There's not a kink and fetish element to
Mhm.
any of it. So it's more erotic art. And my
Gotcha.
clients were super happy that because they were bummed that their picture didn't get to go in the gallery,
Yeah,
but they were very thrilled that their pictures in the show in Detroit. So,
interesting.
and
I've
those are
never.
clients, not
Mhm.
models. They've signed releases. So whenever I was going to submit to the gallery, my release does say I can use their images for art, but I emailed everyone and said, you can withdraw that part of the release, or you can withdraw your release. And zero, none of them said they wanted to withdraw. They were all super excited about the possibility. And one of them, I'm not going to say where he's from, but one of them that did go in the art show he's an eighth grade history teacher. So yeah,
Uh, I was a high school teacher for a while, and having it does weird things to you having to separate because I mean, so I've worked in several places. I worked as a high school teacher for a couple of years. You have to keep your personal life very separate from your
Oh, yeah.
professional life. I've also worked in restaurants. Restaurants, people are very forward. It's almost the complete opposite. Like
Right.
they almost put their sexual self first in a restaurant. And then now I work in, office buildings, commercial office buildings, and those are more like the high school. Like everybody's very desexualized. Everyone, HR watches over everybody,
They
and
do, and it's such a
uh,
I don't know how I feel about it all, but but
so I don't know. It's
and
just
I
very
think
interesting. Yeah.
well, and I think too, like with mentioning HR and desexualizing everything, I work with a lot of men in their 50s.
Mhm.
And this is a topic we discuss and talk about like at their jobs and everything, and men are a lot of the men I work with in their 50s they're afraid to express their sexual side.
Yeah.
And you know, because where are you, 8 hours out of the day, you're at work and flirty banter and all of that stuff. It's just the workplace has changed so much and some of it's for the good. So,
Mhm.
but some of it, I think people have gone a little too far
Well,
on
that's what we do,
being
right? We go too far one way, we realize that we went too far, and then we go too far back the
right.
other way. We're just constantly like,
I know.
"Ooh,
Well, and
Yeah.
I was talking with some boudoir photographers today who had their prep guides taken off
Mm.
of Canva. So Canva's starting to they're probably using bots and whatever to do it, but they're scanning stuff and taking,
Yeah, because it
and trying
mentioned
to
a
get
naughty word or something.
oh, I know, trying to
Oh my
get
god.
images on Instagram or Facebook ads. And
Yeah.
I had one of the images I took out at Red Rock, which was an art nude. You couldn't see anything. It was a guy laying on the rock. The shadow was beautiful across his body. And I put it on my Google My Business listing and it got declined. And I was like, damn,
Yeah.
that is art. It's not sexual at all. I mean, it had no sexy vibe. It was, it was just an art nude, but I was
Yeah.
bummed.
Yeah, the picture that I put up for the Sean Stone interview, which just came out, it was him, it was his butt. So there
Okay.
was nudity in it, but both Instagram and Twitter flagged it as sensitive.
Mm.
And I put up worse stuff than that with nude females, and neither one of them flagged that one. But
It's
the
so
naked
weird.
guy,
Yeah.
weird. Weird, weird, weird. All right, let's move on to photographer education. We've been talking for a bit and
Yeah.
should probably, since that's supposedly the whole reason that we're here,
Right. It's a podcast.
it's a podcast about education.
Oh, yeah. It's a
So,
podcast about education.
yeah, photography education.
I'm an educator.
So the main reason Jimmy recommended you is he commented on the Facebook group you run, Erotica and Boudoir Photographers Education. I can see on Facebook there's over 2,000 members. What types of discussions go on in there?
we're at 2,900 or
Really? Okay.
2,299. So almost 20, whatever it is. What did I say? Almost 2,300 people. I need one more person to join. So, but yeah, no,
You heard it here. Well, they need one more.
I know. Well, and the group's less than a year old. I think I started it in maybe May of last year or March or May. It may have been, I think it was in March. I was a keynote speaker at the Boudoir Summit, and that's when I started it. And so it really just started taking off in the last 5 or 6 months. But we have all kinds of conversations in there. I post every day just to get engagement and to get people to talk. And a lot of people sign up, I think, thinking that it's a play like a model TFP, a place to find somebody to do shoots with and everything. So I'm pretty strict that we're not a portfolio sharing group. So don't come in here and just say, here's my pictures. So, but I do let people post pictures in asking for critique. And for instance, here's a big discussion that was had I think it was last week. Someone posted a picture as a boudoir picture of a woman laying on a bed and asked how to talk with her about her belly.
Hmm.
And so that gave quite a bit of discussion and led to a few additional posts for me, talking about our own biases and how we project that onto or how it's possible to project it onto your clients without realizing that you're doing it. And like one of the photographers commented that it's your place as a photographer to fix something that's, that needs to be fixed in an image. And I'm like, well, who are you to judge that her belly needs to be fixed? Why are you? And people were saying, put a pillow over it or pull the sheet up. And I'm like, wait a minute.
Mhm.
Let's just say, as someone who has a belly, I don't think that that's the right message to be sending. But I can't. That's my brand, and that's how I work with my clients. Now I'll edit I'll edit all of these wrinkles out,
Yeah.
but when it comes to somebody's belly, I'm not going to turn someone who's a size 20 into a size, 8. So,
Yeah. Frankly, there's people who can be attractive at all kinds of sizes. I
absolutely.
find
And
it
people
ridiculous. Yeah.
people can love their bodies at all
Mhm.
sizes and ages. The age is another thing. I see people posting in different groups all the time, like, "Oh, I have a client coming in. She's 55. How do I pose her?" And I'm like, "What do you mean? How do you pose her? You pose her how you pose her. She's 55. She's not dead. She's
Yeah.
she's 55-year-old, so can still be sexy. I've got a year left." So,
All right. You've mentioned a couple of conferences, Shutterstock, Boudoir Summit,
Shutterfest, yeah.
Shutterfest. Sorry. I've never been to a photography conference. I've been to professional
Really?
conferences, but what are photography conferences like?
Oh, well, just to say, now I'm biased because Shutterfest was the first conference I went to in 2016, and the tagline is shoot, learn, party. So 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 I keep going back. So for the party, and the shooting and the learning. Shutterfest really is unique, different from a lot of the other or from the other conferences. They bring in models, and so during the conference it's called rent a human, and so you can get your model, and you can go. I mean, you don't there's no fee, everything's included in the price. And so you go to the booth and you get a model, and you can go shoot all over Union Station, and then after hours you can connect with the models, after hours, and set up shoots and everything. And the classes range, usually a lot of the classes, because they have hands-on classes where you get an opportunity to actually shoot. They have demo classes, and sometimes in a demo class you can still get an opportunity to shoot. And then there's lecture classes, and they range. I mean, it's all kinds of, photography, from pet photography, real estate, weddings, senior portraits. So it's all the different genres. And people do classes on videography, and then there's business classes as well there. So it's just a good variety
Hmm.
of classes to attend. The big thing for me though was just the networking, just making the connections. I have photographer friends all throughout the country because of Shutterfest, and it's like a big family reunion now because we've been going so long and going back year after year and staying connected. I'm in a group chat with 8 of them that would have been has been going on now for 3 years, and we talk about all kinds of stuff in there, just chatting, keeping up with everybody. So it is the connections, the networking that makes it really, really good. And then, like I said, the portfolio building. But really, for newer photographers, for someone who's just starting out and learning, it can be really intimidating and overwhelming, because I was there. I was so scared to go, because again, I didn't even know how to use my flash off my camera. I was still learning how to do camera settings. But all the instructors there are so nice, and want to connect with you, and want to network with you. So it's a good environment.
Yeah, I'm looking at St. Louis. So hey, that's in a place that's a little bit different.
Yeah, it
It's
is, and
not at
it's always in
Vegas.
St. Louis, and it's always at Union Station. The inside of Union Station is
Hmm.
absolutely beautiful. Ironically, I don't ever shoot out in in Union Station, which they do. In the past, they've allowed boudoir photography, like in
Hmm.
different areas, but I never did because it's not something I could replicate. But now this year I may do it, because I am getting more and more clients open to flying me to them or meeting me in a destination. So if someone sees the image in my portfolio, then one one of them I did was on a Virgin cruise, and so I actually had a client ask me how my cruise was and to let them know when I get ready to book my next one because it might be time for their second shoot. So I'm like, yes, let's go on a cruise together and I'll be your photographer.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
You also offer mentoring. What does that entail?
Well, mentoring involves, I work with photographers based on whatever their needs are. I'm really big in whether it's working with a photographer or clients on individualizing everything. And so with mentoring, I work with clients. I have kind of a whole list of things that I am really good at. So I talk them through what it is they're wanting. Is it to improve their photography and lighting and posing and technical skills, or is it, how their client relations and how they're connecting with their clients and building rapport, or is it, just all the other business stuff and SEO and everything? Because I've been
Hmm.
solopreneur this whole time and don't outsource, and I am getting ready to hire my first assistant. So not photo shooting assistant, but office assistant. Photo shooting assistant every time I'm on a dating app, somebody finds out what I do, that that's one of the first things they let me know is that if I ever need an assistant, I'm like, "Yeah, you and everybody else."
Yeah. That's interesting you mentioned the SEO and the business side. I've heard it frequently said. Like I said, I'm an amateur myself. I'm not really trying to make money off my photography, but I've heard that the hard part is really the business side.
It
It's
is.
not the photography part.
Absolutely. And I do. If I, I think if I had to do it all over again, when I got to the skill level with my photography, where I mean, my editing has changed. I've improved
Hmm.
here and there, and different technology has, helped with this and that. And there's always something to learn on the photography side. And my heart wants to just do nothing but, study photography and learn and
Hmm.
improve my photography. But because I'm supporting myself with my business, that part has to wait because my clients love the work.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, good enough. I can sell this and make a living. And so my heart still wants to study it, but my focus is all on business right now, growing the business and marketing. And I do my own SEO, which is can get crazy. It's
Yeah.
always changing.
Yeah. That's something that I struggle with in terms of growing the podcast because I hate doing social media. I
Oh,
do
me
social
too.
media so much.
In fact, that's what my assistant's gonna do is be posting on my Instagram. That's the I just the, in Chat
Yeah.
GPT, you can get captions. You're like, write me a month's worth of captions, and boom, in 2 seconds, there they are.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
that will be really easy for getting Instagram stuff going.
Mm.
And then I can get my Instagram account shut down because of a booty picture or whatever. Forgot to edit a nipple or something.
Yeah. It's kind of ridiculous how much they can control. I mean, because it's gotten to the point now where that's where I meet most people for the podcast is all on Instagram, and they could just decide to just shut me down. And
Yeah.
Twitter doesn't get nearly the reach or the popularity.
No, it doesn't, and you never know what the next thing to come along is, but Facebook and Instagram, I don't think they're going anywhere anytime soon.
No, nope. And
And
mm,
photographers will say, "Oh, well, go get on this platform," but it's nothing but photographers, and so I'm like,
mm.
"Mm."
Yeah, for you, that's a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm like, "No, I don't need to be." Plus, I stopped following a bunch of photographers just because when I scroll through my Instagram and it's a bunch of photographers, then it starts impacting how I feel about my work because I'm like
Mm,
super, I'm one of those artists. I have a lot of imposter syndrome and I look at somebody
yeah,
else's stuff and I'm like, "Oh, my stuff's shit. What am I gonna do?" I'm terrible.
yeah,
So if I don't look at other people, comparison is the thief of joy. So I
yeah.
try not to compare my work.
And
So
it's
now
especially
I've opened Instagram and it's a bunch of kinky memes and and some business stuff. So I need to throw that in there. So
yeah. No, it's funny thinking about it because you think about what, Ansel Adams and like the original photographers had to do. They only had like 20 sheets and they had to make sure each one counted.
I
Like that's their
know.
whole day. They're going to take 20 pictures. And then when we were kids, you'd have a roll. You'd have, 12 or 24 shots on
Mm.
the roll and you'd have to pay, $20 to buy it and ship it off and get it. and you had to try and get those as good as possible. But now you can just dash off thousands and thousands. I was talking with somebody like, I mean, if you shoot 600 pictures of a model and the lighting's even halfway okay, you're like guaranteed to get like one or two
Oh
like
yeah.
really good ones.
Yeah.
Like just because you'll
And
just catch them randomly. Like,
yes, and since I've started shooting erotica,
mhm,
I started shooting in continuous. So
hmm.
I'll shoot, 5 frames, 5 to 10 frames,
Yeah, just
and
because someone might blink, like their body's perfect, but they blinked, and now
well,
you're
and I try not to do too many static poses because
mm,
I just that doesn't resonate with me. But if that's what my clients want, then we do. But a lot of times I want it to have a much more of an organic feel. And so I get them in movements. And so I walk them from, here's point A, we're going to point B, and whatever you want to do in between, just do it. And so and they're like, really? And so, I work with them in that. And so sometimes the nuance is just in just a slight tilt of the head or,
mhm,
a hand here versus running down their neck. So it could be this
yeah.
piece is like perfect, but then
Mhm.
it keeps going, just those little bitty differences from one frame to the next.
Yeah, those
Has
drive me nuts, like going back and forth and Outlook, or I'm not Outlook in
it
Lightroom, where you're
like,
like,
yeah.
is it?
Well, the
Oh,
culling
which one?
process takes me a while, but I do use Aftershoot for culling,
Hmm,
and I love the fact that it is AI culling, and I let the AI cull for me, but I go back and still look at every individual picture and I make adjustments. And
gotcha.
I mean, it gets it right most of the time, but 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 I end up, going in and as if this is the freaky and cool thing about AI, it learns what I like. And so
Hmm,
each time I call, it's it's based on cumulatively everything that I've called. It's seeing what the images that I'm telling it later. No, I didn't like this one, but I like that one instead. But the cool thing about it too is that it groups your pictures together. So if I did similar shots later in the shoot, when I'm looking at them in after shoot, then they're all grouped together. So I can see all the similar shots right there.
interesting.
So it's pretty cool.
Hmm,
And they're getting ready to come out with an updated version that's going to have some amazing features too.
hmm.
But I'm not just saying that they're awesome. I just want to give that disclaimer. They are one
That's
of my
funny.
sponsors, but I'm not just saying they're awesome because they are, but they also have where you can upload your own images and it creates a editing profile for you. And so
Actually, I
that
would
gives
love
them
that. I would love that because
yeah.
I have definitely a couple styles that I really like, and I've got presets for those styles, but I still have to go in and like tweak them and do. It'd be nice if I could have something that would automatically.
Yeah, and that's the cool thing about
Mm,
Aftershoot because, a preset just puts the exact
exact same.
same across the thing. And
Yeah.
so,
Mm,
Aftershoot is gonna base it on your style. So every image is gonna have, the exposure, everything's gonna be
interesting.
tweaked to that particular image based on your
Yeah.
style. And
Anything that means I have to edit less.
yeah, I know, right? And they just they're making it where because used to you wouldn't be able to have a survey view, so you couldn't see you couldn't pick between two images, but they just updated that, and then they're having it where you can open the image from di- directly from Aftershoot into whatever other program, Lightroom or Photoshop, that you want to. So I
Yeah.
like that feature. I haven't used it yet. I mean, they don't have it. It's not pushed out yet, but it will be probably by the time this comes
Ah,
out.
yeah. It looks like it's priced for people that do it as a business, though, unfortunately.
Well, the cool thing about it is a lot of the other like AI editors out there too,
Mm.
they're priced at a per image price. So, you're like, oh, do I want to
Wow.
run this through or not? Because, you know, so I like that they have just a flat pricing. But yeah, it probably is it is geared more towards professionals. But here's what I tell hobbyist photographers that, if they are charging, I because I don't have a problem with
Mhm.
someone being a free photographer, but it's the $50 photographers that I'm like, or the $500 photographers. I'm like, even if you've got a job that you're making money from, you should still, run your hobby as if you were a business. So
Mm.
what would, if you didn't have this other money, what would you be charging? For a couple of different reasons. One, because they might see that, oh, I can do this for a living and work for myself and, build a business out of it.
Mm.
And then two, just kind of, for the sake of the industry, having people not thinking that, or thinking that, oh, I should be able to have this great photo shoot for $50.
Yeah. All right.
But
We
because I
are.
was there, because I was a hobbyist for a number of years and
Mhm.
did, and people sometimes will say stuff the phrase, oh, well, you get what you pay for. Well, that's not really true. I know some incredibly talented photographers that are, that don't charge anything for their work and their quality is, high end, great photography.
Yeah. I can understand that. I've definitely heard of, don't make the thing you love doing your work because you will grow to hate it.
I've heard that. I just made a big post about it. I disagree with it, but I mean, I think it takes I think it's just a case by case basis. Some people it builds their passion and grow. And then I'm also like, and you'll find another passion that, you enjoy, like supporting yourself and making money and being able to
It's everybody's passion.
right, be able to grow your dream instead of, you know, growing your boss's dream or your
Yeah.
company's dream.
Yeah.
Who
All right. I think at this point we've been talking for over an hour. It's time to
Oh,
sew this
have
thing
we?
up. Yeah.
Alrighty.
I think we started at about 7:15. I think we're like an hour and
Oh,
12.
yeah. Where
Uh,
are you located?
I'm on the East Coast.
Oh, East
So
Coast. Okay.
yeah, it's not bad, but it's yeah. So my last selfish question. Where is the best place to get tacos in Vegas?
I knew you were going to ask that. So I am a big fan of Tacos El Gordo. And that's the one that's down the strip, like near the Wynn. And there's at night, there's always a huge ass line. But now they have one on the other end of the south end of the strip at Sunset and Las Vegas Boulevard. And so it's really big and good, but they have great street tacos.
All right, I already have that one flagged.
Yeah.
I'm staying across the street from it when I'm a little up the street,
Yeah.
the Hilton Grand Vacations.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So although I was looking at Resorts World, I see it's got terrible reviews or less
Does
good
it?
reviews. It has less good
I
reviews.
I mean, I like going to Resorts World. They
Yeah,
have
I'm
a really
walking
cool
through it.
store in there.
Mhm.
I'm not affiliated with them, but I'll give them a little shout out called Pepper. They're a sexual wellness store, and I really
I've
appreciate
seen
the
that.
in such a, high end resort that and it's a huge storefront, and you go
Mhm.
in and they have like a concierge level kind of where they show
Interesting.
you sex toys in a case and
Hmm.
bring them out and talk to you about them and everything. And it's really
Yeah.
cool because I think it's just getting, sex and sexual wellness more in the mainstream and more approachable as opposed to because some of my clients, they wouldn't be comfortable going into the Lion's Den or whatever other, adult superstore and they feel like, oh, they haven't worked through all that yet. So,
Yeah.
and then they don't want to get on Amazon and order something. So,
I've heard bad stories about Amazon. Not a lot of the stuff that comes from Amazon is not body safe.
yeah, no, yeah,
So
you should be careful with buying stuff off of Amazon.
yeah,
Even if you think it's like the name brand stuff, it might not be.
gotcha. All right. So we are right here. And some of the feedback I got last year, I had somebody suggest that I ask guests on the podcast to recommend either photographers or models that people should follow and or work with. Who have you worked with that you would recommend and why?
As far as photographers go, I have a friend over I think she's on the East Coast, named Jen Fox, and she's a erotica photographer. Her work's beautiful. She and I exchange messages and phone calls and have Zooms from time to time. We like sharing stories, and ironically, we have some of the same inquiries. So some of the kind of comes with the territory is we get people inquiring about photo shoots that aren't really wanting a photo shoot. So it's always nice to have a resource to call up and say, "Hey, did you get inquiry about this and this and this?" So kind of interesting.
Could you dive into that a little more? Photo shoots, it's not really a photo shoot.
Yeah. Yeah. Some people just, get their jollies by calling off, will you shoot this? Will you shoot this? And wanting to tell the
Oh,
description of what they're wanting to
oh, I
shoot. And
see.
then turns out they never really want to do a shoot. So I've kind of changed my processes a good bit now. When once I know they want an erotica shoot, I say, hey, I'll shoot anything that doesn't land us in jail or the hospital. That should answer a lot of your questions. So if you want to see my gallery, we should do a Zoom, and then I send them an email because that it's just not, I don't do a lot of nurturing with my with my erotica inquiries until they actually book a session. And so then I spend a great deal of time preparing and talking with them to let them know what excitement that's in store for them.
Gotcha. Any models you've worked with, or maybe not because you tend to work with
Well,
clients?
actually, yeah, because of Shutterfest, I do work with some models. One is a guy model, and you can see his work on Model Society, which is a really great place to check out a lot of art nudes. And so, but his name is Jacob Dillon, and he's a very talented model. He's not a full-time model, but he's very talented. And then Krista Harris is out of Memphis, and she's on Model Society too, and probably Model Mayhem as well, but she does in Instagram, but she does art nudes, and I've been working with her every year since 2016. We shoot together at least once a year, and so I love working with her.
All right, awesome. Do you have any projects you'd like folks to be aware of?
Just I would say that my education group is definitely a project. So I invest a lot of time in there trying to help other photographers along. I've got some workshops. I'm going to be doing workshops in the fall so people can connect with me on Facebook. And then I have I'm teaching the 3 classes at Shutterfest. And that's the first week of April in St. Louis. And then I'm teaching at the After Dark Artist Retreat, which is put on, I'm an ambassador for them, but there'll be 8 educators there and 8
Mhm.
models. And it's from the April 18th until the 21st. It's a great opportunity to get content and build a portfolio for photographers who don't have erotica portfolio. After Dark Artists is specifically erotica, kink, and fetish retreat. And then at those conferences, and then in May in my group, I'll be making a big announcement for something I'm cooking up that's going to launch in late May.
All right. Are all your workshops in Vegas?
Right now they are.
Mm.
So in 2025, I'm going to plan a destination workshop. So I haven't worked through all of that yet. So, but yeah, I will be doing a destination one,
All right. Well,
probably in
Pam. Oh,
Miami as
I'm
well.
actually going to Miami next week for work, but I don't have any time to go do anything. And my camera's broken. I've been trying to get Olympus to fix my camera for like,
Oh,
I guess
bummer.
it's OM systems now.
Mm.
I need to actually, that reminds me, I need to check and see if it dropped it off in my spam. Yeah, the screen's freezing. It's very frustrating.
Oh, that's not fun.
Nope. Nope. I'm sure it's going to cost a fortune to fix. But
Because the very first photographer that worked with my daughter was a Nikon shooter. That's because of him. That's I ended up going with Nikon, and have had I'm on my 4th Nikon body now, and this is good. This Nikon Z9, so it's a keeper for sure.
yeah, I'm debating. I've been thinking about upgrading to full frame, but I'm like, because I shoot micro four thirds because I prefer the smaller lens size.
Yeah,
But this is frustrating me, and I don't want to just replace it with another OM Systems camera after them ignoring me. But
yeah.
all right. So Pam, where can everyone find you online?
Well, they can find me through my website, pamfieldsphotography.com. And I will be doing another website before too much longer, probably by the summer. But pamfieldsphotography.com is where I'm at now. I'm on Facebook as Pam K. Fields. And then my Instagram and other platforms, just at Pam Fields Photo is the other handle that I can be found at. I have my one TikTok video up. So I despise social media. I'm like, oh my God, I don't know
Yeah.
how people keep up with it because it's a lot to do with all the different all the
Yeah.
content
Yeah.
creation, but it's a lot.
Yeah. I gotta make Daddy Zuck some money.
That's right. That's right. And then use all the repurposing repurposing software to break things up and have reels for this and that and put it
Yeah.
out there everywhere.
Yep. All right. Well, and with that, we are done. You can find us at the nsfwphotographypodcast.com. On Twitter is at NSFW Photography, Instagram at the NSFW Photography Podcast, and we have a Mastodon instance at nsfwphotography.social that is dedicated to nude and adult photography with a very light hand on the moderation. Oh, and I guess this is going to be on YouTube too. So I guess I should say something about that. We'll see. And finally, subscribe on your favorite podcast app. I have to add something like and subscribe. Smash that like button.
Yeah, smash that like button. That's right.